Welcome back to M Hood Discovered. Yeah, you're right. You know what that is, right? That's ginger. Yeah, you're right. So, ginger is a really cool root. Not to everybody's liking, but it has a lot of medicinal properties maybe you don't know about. It is a good anti-inflammatory and a pain reliever, right? It has those properties. So, a lot of people like to make ginger tea when they have some muscle pain. It will relieve it. A lot of people just like things that taste like ginger. But if you're going to make ginger tea, or as I am going to do, ginger coffee, to relieve anything, maybe you should consult your doctor first. But those properties are there, and the pain is there for me personally, right? But I'm not going to just make some ginger tea that's not going to fit this situation, this scenario. I am going to make some ginger coffee that is going to ease my pain, not put me to sleep, have some caffeine, but also add a very interesting flavor to the coffee. Let's show you how I do that. It's anybody's guess what amount you should use to make what amount you want to make, right? Does that make sense? The more ginger, the more water is what you should think about. You see how I'm cutting it in thin slices. Maybe this amount of ginger that I'm cutting up would make the average pot of tea if your kettle is of average size. But really, like a lot of things, it's a matter of your taste. The stronger ginger flavor, the more ginger, right? The reason for me cutting it up in thin slices and then cutting it up into smaller slices is it will impart more flavor, but I don't want it so small that it's going to like come through the throat of the kettle. We'll say that's probably a decent strong pot right there, this amount for me, for one person. I would say maybe this is about a cup of ginger, roughly a cup. And I would say that this is probably your average size kettle. And there we go. There was already some water in there, but with your average kettle, you're not going to fill it up past this. You might go to the top of that if you want to, but you don't go past it. So on average for me, my water level on the inside is going to be the bottom of the throat right there. If I come up too high and it starts to boil, it could spit water out. So that's the level I've chosen to fill to. Sometimes when I'm making a cup of tea or I just want to get water hot for other things in my kettle, I might go on high. But for the purpose of this, making ginger tea, I say ginger tea, but the title says ginger coffee. But this is how you make ginger tea. Before you make ginger coffee, you have to make ginger tea. So for the purpose of this, we don't want to like come up really fast to a boil, because we don't intend to boil the ginger root. We intend to bring it up to a boil and then take that heat off. We just want to steep it. So coming up to a boil slowly steeps it on the front end, and then we take the heat out and we steep it more on the back end. Does that make sense? The first time I had ginger tea, I believe I was 19 years old, the Lower East Side of New York, in a building that everyone fondly called Fetus. It's an old building. It's just a nickname for it. and I was hanging out with a Rasta friend of mine who was just a little older than me. He was in his 20s. He was like maybe 22, 23, and I was 19. And I think, was my friend Max? It may have been Max. I think I was the only one in the room without dreads. Well, yeah, there was Ollie, and I think Max was there. And we just walked in, we were hanging out with Ollie. He was doing some kind of art project, and he said, would you like to drink some ginger tea with me? And I'd never had it before, right? And he told me some things about it. He had a little hot plate going in a small pot, and he was just slowly steeping that tea on a low heat for a while, because it's not something that happens really, really fast, right? The longer you steep your tea, the stronger it's going to be. The more you're going to get out of that tea, no matter what it is, right? Some things take less time than others, and other things, the more time it takes, the better, and the more benefit you receive. The better the tea is, the stronger it is. But I cherished that moment hanging out with Ollie, drinking ginger tea, and I've been making ginger tea for myself ever since then. But these days, I also like to make ginger coffee for myself. I'm not going to sit here in this warm, well, let's be honest, hot kitchen talking until it's done. I'm going to continue. I am getting ready for something, and hopefully we'll have some ginger coffee before I head out. You hear that? Hear that low key hissing sound? My particular tea kettle never whistles. It is not a whistling kettle. So that, normally if I'm heating up water for coffee, that would tell me that I'm right before a boil, that low hissing. And I don't like to make my coffee with boiling hot water because I don't like scalding it. So I know that I'm really close to a boil. You can see steam is starting to come out the throat of the kettle. I'm going to let it go a second. I have this on a medium heat. Being an electric range, it's on a 5. We'll call that a medium heat. We'll call that a pretty high medium heat, but it's a medium heat. Therefore, we're almost ready to just take it off the heat. But let's let a good amount of steam come out. Let's let that get to a boil. Let's look in there. It's been about maybe 20 minutes, and we're at a gentle boil. We'll let that come up a little more to a rapid boil, and it's not going to take long. As you see, we have far more steam now coming out, and this clip hasn't been that long. So we're just about there. We're about ready to shut it down. As you can see, I've got the tackle room and the kitchen all lit up like a runway at the airport. And now my kettle is like a steam engine pumping out that steam. It's working hard. It is time to back it up where there's no heat. And see how much heat I had? And now I'm going to just turn that off. I'm gonna let that sit. Sometimes I'm known to let it sit for hours. Not that I need to let it sit for hours, but it's always nice when it sits there for hours and just cools off. We're probably going to give it another 20 minutes and then we'll have a cup of coffee. Roughly 20 minutes have gone by. Honestly, I usually let it sit longer than that, but I'm ready to go. We've made our coffee choice. We're going to go with an old school favorite of mine, Cafe Bustelo. So back in the early 90s, like 1990, I was in New York. I was 17, and now I have a red bone asking for a door to be open. So hold on. I ran away to New York when I was 17, lived in the Chelsea Hotel. I was traveling when I was 18. I was back in New York when I was 19, working as a bike messenger. Oh, that's another story in itself. And then eventually I moved to the Lower East Side, and I started a love affair with this coffee, Cafe Bustelo. At that time, it was sold. I was buying it in bricks. It was also sold in these cans, but the cheaper one was in the brick, smaller package than this, right? Vacuum packed brick. And believe it or not, if you could scrounge up $1, you could walk into a bodega on Avenue D or anywhere in the Lower East Side and get some espresso. It's not $1 now. This can of coffee I bought the other day, can you guess what I paid for it? It was actually on sale. It was a little over $7 on sale. That's what I paid for this. Back in the day, in the early 90s, this was considered garbage. Nobody liked this. They were like, it's too bitter. See that? Now they love it. Now it's like gourmet. Back in the early 90s, you couldn't give this away. When you were like short for getting some coffee, and you go around to all the people in the house and be like, hey, you got a quarter? What do you need it for? I'm going to get some espresso. You can have some. What are you getting? I'm getting Cafe Bustelo. I'm going to keep my quarter. No, I'm not helping you get it. But you live here too, and we all used one kitchen. And they're like, I can't stand Cafe Bustelo. But there were people who loved it, right? Even though there were many people who thought it was garbage. We're just using 2 heaping scoops of it. That's more than generous. That might be too much for some people. Yeah, I'm always amazed what things cost now, remembering what they cost then, and that wasn't too long ago. Here we go. Now, if you want to know how to make ginger tea, I've showed you. If you want to make ginger coffee, this is what it's super simple. You just pour ginger tea over your coffee. It's easy as that. It makes the coffee a little spicier, kind of like if it had cardamom in it, but cardamom is a totally different flavor than ginger, of course. But I remember back in the day in New York, there was this little hole in the wall on Houston that me and my friends would go to. It was mostly patronized by cabbies from India. And it was a food place, right? They sold coffee and food. I don't know, what was it, Punjabi or something they sold? But it was all vegetarian. It was basically a lentil dish. Lentils and rice was basically what they sold the most of there, right? But there was absolutely no meat. And the food was very reasonably priced and just extremely good. I mean, it was good. It wasn't the kind of curry that burnt the backyard down. You weren't pumping and trumping the next day. It wasn't overspiced. But if you got a cup of coffee there, it had cardamom in it. Now, you could ask for it not to be in it, but if you didn't ask, if you didn't speak up, you'd get a small cup of coffee with cardamom in it. Because that's what they liked. It's what those cab drivers liked. Okay. And we're just waiting for it to drain. Smells good. You can smell the ginger. And if I let it just sit there longer, if I heat it back up to make another cup of coffee, until that pot is drained, it's just going to keep getting stronger and stronger. If I add more water, it's going to make it weaker. Eventually we'll have to put a new round of ginger in there, but that'll last for a while. There's no worry of it going sour at the moment, but if I leave it sitting in there for like 12 hours, maybe it'll, yeah. But it's not going to last that long around me. I'm going to drink that. It's going to sit there while I'm out. I'm going on a session right now, a carb session. It's going to sit there and continue steeping. And by the time I get back, let me let you in on a secret. When I come back home from a long session, first thing I do is I get the kettle on. Whether I need to wake up or not. It's just something about getting the kettle on right as I get home. Whether it's going to be caffeinated tea or coffee or decaffeinated tea or coffee. It's just something special about walking in the house before I bring anything in and just make sure that kettle's on. So by the time I've got all my stuff in, the kettle is pumping steam out into the kitchen and it's ready to go. Whether I need to go to sleep or wake up, I like to put my kettle on once I get home. Where are we? Oh, ho, ho, ho. We got a good level here. As you can see, I'm really close to the top. I want to put a bigger cowl in there than that, so we're going to go ahead and make a mess, drip a little bit, pour a little bit onto the counter rather than in the cup where it all should have went, but life isn't perfect. And there we go. Now we need to add the cow. Wow, that is quite pleasant. Quite pleasant. I should have left that steeping for like over an hour because it is quite mild, but there is a strong ginger flavor. The coffee you make from when you pour over Cafe Bustelo, because it's an espresso, it's going to be strong. It's going to have that bitter espresso flavor, and then you make it just a little more bitter with the ginger, but really it's spicier. It has a slight burn, not a bad one. This would only be sweet if I added sugar. Oh, the more I sip, the more ginger I taste. Wow, this is really, I made a really mild ginger coffee here. Really nice. So remember, the more mild you want your ginger coffee, the less you let it steep. The longer you let it steep, and maybe the more ginger you use, of course it's going to be stronger. And, you know, everybody has their personal taste, their particular taste. Some people like a lot of salt, some people don't like any salt. Some people want things really spicy, some just want it mild. Others, if you put a dash of black pepper, they act like you threw a brick through their stained glass window. That's just how some people are. They can't even take a dash of pepper. Oh, this is really nice. I think it's going to be even better when I get back home in about 6 hours. Wow. You got to try it. If you like ginger, if you like ginger snaps, other baked goods with ginger, if you like ginger soda, ginger ale, if you just like ginger, try it in your coffee. Try it in your tea. Just ginger tea. If I just wanted straight ginger tea, like the way Ollie introduced it to me, we had no milk. All we had was a little bit of lemon and a little bit of honey. And we let that tea steep for a good while. Ollie was like a good Rasta friend of mine. So ginger tea is something that comes to me through Rasta. Right? I've hung out with a lot of Rastas who were absolutely addicted to the ginger tea. I've never hung out with a Rasta that was addicted to ginger coffee. Ginger coffee is something I just was like, I wanted to do. Something I came up with. I'm sure I'm not the only one who has done it, but it is definitely something that's going to stick around in my life. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Thank you for watching, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. My goodness, thank you so much for subscribing. We recently went over 1,000. We needed to do that in order to monetize. At the moment, we're like a few camel hairs, a few elephant hairs away from the watch hours. We're not too far away. We need over 4,000, but we need to really, when we apply for this, we need to be a good ways over the sub count, which is 1,000, and a good ways over the 4,000 watch hour, which is the watch hour count, because anything can change. Like, you could have your watch hours, but as you're applying, your subs go down. So before I do these things, I like to be a good ways over the finish line, and we're definitely over one of them. Thank you so much. It is such a milestone for me at the moment to have possibly 2 monetized channels. It enables me to be more creative, to go down different avenues, and achieve my goals better and faster. Yeah, you're right. It's not all about fishing, but fishing is a big part of my life, and so are other things such as ginger coffee. Yeah, you're right. Hey, again, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.